Time Warner Cable is pleased to be an underwriting sponsor for Carolina Week.
Coming up on Carolina Week.
Will signing up to support a gender-neutral housing option have unintended consequences? We'll have some answers.
Plus, what democracy looks like at UNC is up for debate. We'll show you both sides of today's protest.
In sports, we'll show you how far a dad will travel for his daughter.
All that and brownies that can relax you.
We'll tell you what the FDA has to say about it. Carolina Week starts right now.
From the James F. Goodman Studio in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, connecting campus and community, this is Carolina Week.
Who should be able to live together and who should be able to marry? Both are questions being debated tonight.
Should men and women be able to live together in university housing here at UNC? And should same-sex marriage be unconstitutional in North Carolina? We have two reports tonight.
First, men and women living together. A proposal to allow just that will be before the administration by the end of the week.
But officials want to hear from students before they present the idea to the Board of Trustees. More than 20% of organizations already support the gender-neutral option. Cassie Scarsha reports that despite this report, some wonder if this option will produce unintended consequences.
Duke students Fayam Rahman and Preeti Jyothi are roommates in on-campus housing at Duke. They became roommates by using Duke's gender-neutral housing option.
I love my female roommates. They're really easy to get along with, and we don't really have any problems.
No negative experiences at all.
More than 90 universities nationwide have a gender-neutral housing option, but UNC isn't one of them. Sophomore Kevin Claiborne thinks this needs to change. He says students with alternative lifestyles face harassment in dorms and should be able to choose which gender they feel most comfortable living with.
It happens on our campus. It's not like it's just something that doesn't happen on our campus. It does, and it's just sad. And I feel like we need something to, combat that.
Claiborne's proposal reports that the LGBTQ community is 19 times more likely to experience harassment, and almost 12% of that harassment occurs in dorms. But a gender-neutral housing option wouldn't be limited to LGBTQ students. Senior Anthony Dent says this would open the door to heterosexual students like Rahman and Jyothi living together and possibly raise concerns.
I don't think many taxpayers would support the idea of having state-sanctioned cohabitation.
But Jyothi thinks the risk is worth the reward.
As a state-funded institution, it would have a responsibility to all of its students.
The thing is, we can't, as a university, stop what's going on Franklin Street in the pit, but we can make sure that these people live in a happier, safer environment in their room.
Claiborne says he's been told the administration must see significant student support before making a decision on a gender-neutral housing option at UNC and recommending it to the Board of Trustees. In Chapel Hill, I'm Cassie Scarsha, Carolina Week.
A group calling itself the Gender Non-Specific Housing Coalition will host a forum tomorrow night in Murphy Hall to talk about the option.
The second issue, same-sex marriage. It's already banned in North Carolina, and soon it could be unconstitutional. Caitlin Covington has the story of one Chapel Hill couple.
UNC grads Brett Kessler and Thomas Landreth are newlyweds. They won a trip to get married in Sweden, where same-sex marriages are legal.
It was the best shot we had because, in the States we would have to travel to one of the very few states that recognize it, whereas this was a country willing to offer us a legally binding ceremony and the respect that we think couples like us deserve. So, we took the only chance we had.
But under North Carolina law, their marriage isn't legal, and in May, it could become unconstitutional.
Since the amendment was proposed, Chapel Hill has shown both support and opposition. I'm here at the UNC School of Law where last month, lawmakers met to debate the amendment.
Republican House Majority Leader Paul Stam is quoted as saying, "In countries around the world where they have legitimized same-sex marriage itself is delegitimized." But Professor Holning Lau says the amendment would have unintended consequences.
The amendment might take away rights that unmarried couples, both different sex and same-sex couples, currently enjoy in the state of North Carolina. One of the most troubling examples to me is domestic violence protections.
Kessler agrees the impacts would be far-reaching.
Gay teens like myself at that age, they would take the hardest hit to their egos. might be discouraged from coming out because they don't believe that the environment's there for them.
Not only would the amendment ban same-sex marriage, but it would outlaw domestic partnerships and civil unions as well. In Chapel Hill, I'm Caitlin Covington, Carolina Week.
Elon University recently took a poll about the North Carolina marriage amendment. 56% are opposed and 39% support the amendment. Now, these results have remained steady over the last 7 months.
While protests in New York City are seeking to occupy Wall Street, students took to Wilson Library today to occupy UNC. Student groups on UNC's campus gathered today on the steps of Wilson Library to occupy UNC in support of the one on Wall Street. Organizers encourage students and faculty to walk out of classes and meetings to air any grievances they might have with the university or the country. Students voiced complaints about such issues as the university budget, the war on terror, and the protests on Wall Street. But there were mixed feelings about the protests.
For me, I just think it's a farce. I think it's a silly farce. And I feel like people protesting just want to protest for the sake of protesting.
Really, the issue is students having a real impact, not sort of a formal and fake, sort of symbolic representation.
The Occupy UNC group plans to hold weekly meetings for student groups and community members on the steps of Wilson Library. The next meeting will be next Wednesday during University Day hours. The housekeeping staff may have been right after all. They've been complaining for years about unfair treatment, and an independent consulting group's report appears to back them up. UNC hired PRM Consulting Group last spring to evaluate the university's housekeeping services. PRM spent 4 months on campus and interviewed more than 400 people. Chancellor Holden Thorpe announced that the university will make changes based on PRM's recommendations. Changes will include continuing investigations into harassment, studying housekeeper salaries, and providing English as a second language program.
Well, another report has just been released. This one, the annual security report from the university and the towns of Chapel Hill and Carborough. All in all, the area appears to be relatively safe, but as Alana Austin reports, there are some concerns.
Senior Laura Rolke once lived here, but after one hair-raising night in Chapel View, she'll never return.
I immediately freaked out. I really didn't know what to do.
The burglar opened the gate, kicked through a deadbolted lock, and stole $5,000 worth of belongings while Rolke and her roommate weren't at home.
We stayed up the whole night. We kind of took turns sleeping, and we woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning, hoping to have an action plan.
They eventually moved into this apartment off Merritt Mill Road, but not before doing some research.
We were shocked to know how many robberies actually take place, and just all the different assaults and type things that go on.
But campus safety spokesman Randy Young says that there are more important concerns for students.
Have really a target-rich environment. We have cell phones, we have laptops, we have a lot of materials that are left unguarded. But we've seen a drastic reduction over the past 8 or 9 years in the number of total larcenies.
However, larceny statistics were not included in the 2011 crime data. Some statistics did stand out. Campus breaking and enterings shot up by 366%. On-campus reportings of sex offenses also increased by 325%. There were 4 reported in 2008, but 17 in 2010. On the other hand, the number of robberies, aggravated assaults, and car thefts was almost non-existent on campus. But Rolke's changed some of her habits since the break-in.
We also made sure that the door frames were a little more sturdy.
In Chapel Hill, I'm Alana Austin, Carolina Week.
If you'd like to read the complete report, go to reesenews.org.
That same report suggests drug activity is down in our area, but the FDA has concerns tonight anyway, and of all things, about brownies. Michael Moore reports they're not the kind of brownies our parents used to eat back in the 60s, but a new snack called Lazy Cake.
These ain't your mama's brownies. That's what the packaging warns, but that only seems to be encouraging college students to give relaxation brownies a try. UNC senior Will Meyer volunteered to try his first on camera.
I feel like pretty normal. I don't know, not really anything spectacular.
The FDA says the brownies should be taken off of shelves whether they work or not. Why? Because they contain melatonin.
Melatonin is just kind of a anxiety or sleep aid that they sell at Whole Foods.
That's John Long, owner of Expressions, one of the few places on Franklin Street that sells the brownies. The FDA says the problem is that melatonin is an illegal food additive that's dangerous in large quantities. But makers are getting around that law by calling the brownies a dietary supplement, not food.
There's just people that are using them improperly, overdoing it, just like anything else we have. Drink too much alcohol, it's bad. Drink too much water, it's bad. Eat too many brownies, it's bad.
Long has never tried one of the brownies, but Meyer has. After eating the brownie, what was his verdict?
I don't think there's enough evidence in my own experience to ban it, but maybe it should be more clearly labeled.
Clearly labeled or not, these baked goods are still available at head shops everywhere. In Chapel Hill, I'm Michael Moore, Carolina Week.
And it's not just food. The FDA has already banned beverages containing this sleep-inducing substance. The plaque to memorialize the speaker ban protest will pay tribute to the man who started it all.
We'll tell you his story coming up next.
Today, about 1 in 5 Americans is living with a disability. Over 50 million people, including many of our friends and neighbors, teachers and co-workers, heroes and leaders. 20 years ago, the Americans with Disabilities Act guaranteed every person the right to live, work, and participate fully in the American experience. We've come a long way since then, and we are committed to making even more progress in the years ahead. Visit disability.gov to see how you can help.
The magical thing about using energy wisely is that anyone can do it. Turn off lights. Use energy-saving light bulbs. And turn off computers and game systems when not in use. Make a change and we can really fly. Grab a grown-up and go online to energy.gov/kids.
Over the past few weeks, we've been telling you the story of the speaker ban law in our special reports. Speaking of the First Amendment, Carolina Week, along with our partners Carolina Connection and Reese News, have been taking a close look at the law. Now, Student Body President Paul Dixon was the one who led that student protest to overturn the law. We remember him tonight. In 1966, Paul Dixon was a senior at UNC, a member of Chi Psi fraternity, a Vietnam War veteran, and the student body president who fought the speaker ban law.
Has informed us that Dr. Aptheker may not speak on the campus. We will therefore move to the other side of the wall. I would request that you, the student body, stay on this side so that you don't interrupt traffic.
Dixon's fervor and drive may have been surprising to some, but not to his sister Anne. She says that's just the way the Dixon kids were raised.
Had lots of passion flying around with these discussions at dinner, so it was ingrained in us to get involved. And
Paul Dixon led the protest and the lawsuit that followed, and he did it for the right reasons.
It wasn't an issue of pride or swagger or anything like that. It was more, it was broken, it needed fixing.
That's why Anne and her brother Robert decided to memorialize the events of 1966 with a plaque in the very spot the protest happened.
Where it ought to be, and it's going to be right there on the wall.
Anne and Robert Dixon took their idea to the university and met no resistance from Chancellor Holden Thorpe.
It's a memorable one when Holden said, "I always say no to these requests, but today I'm saying yes."
Anne and Robert Dixon say the plaque is a memorial of the protests and their brother, but it's also a reminder to UNC students of today.
I don't know, I'm positive about the students these days. So
I see that spirit of challenge is still alive.
Paul Dixon was killed in a car accident just a few short years after graduating from UNC. His name will be on the memorial plaque, along with the names of the other plaintiffs in the lawsuit against the state.
Well, soon after that plaque is dedicated, the School of Journalism and Mass Communication here at the university will have a new dean. Her name is Susan King, and our own Lindsay Hawkins sat down with her to talk about her plans for the school.
So I've been at Carnegie Corporation, New York, and I've led the Journalism Initiative. UNC has been part of that, and it is one of the stars of the program.
Well, you talked about your work with Carnegie, and so what have you seen with working with other schools that we should be doing here at the school?
Well, You know, I think that every school has a personality if it's really one of the top 12, and we worked with the top 12. I think UNC is unique in having this double strength. So for me, having a feedback loop between the scholars and the practitioners, between those who are thinking about what the business is and those who are doing it, is really what's exciting here, and I'm really drawn to that.
Where do you see the news industry going in the future?
If we used to depend, let's say you're a hospital and you want to get information out to your community, you had to depend on the local newspaper to tell your story. You don't have to do that anymore. You can have a website that explains various things that you want the public to know about. And the public now does go to those websites. They need people who can translate the information. They need good communicators to tell those stories. And then news organizations are going to link to them, and so that there is a different kind of cycle of news. I'm an optimist, but it's not going to be easy in this transition. And what makes the university, I think, a really exciting place to be is I think it's both going to be helping to discover what the new things are, produce the kind of leaders that will jump into those jobs, that will keep innovating, because they're going to have to.
What are you most excited about come January 1st?
I haven't worked with students in the last few years, except from a distance. And I've seen people I know who are working at other journalism schools, either were practitioners or professors, and they are excited about working with students because there is an edge that you bring to it, because you are always changing and the time is changing and you're preparing people for something else. So for me, the big difference that will happen come January is that I will be in an institution where the students are constantly coming in, and that is the mission, to prepare this next generation. And I'm looking forward from that energy.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Now, if you want to hear the complete interview, you can log on to reesenews.org. Students planning to major in business might have to pay to apply if a new $50 fee is approved. Keenan Flagler Business School officials believe the fee will help the school's review process. Revenue generated from the application fee would be used to increase pay for application readers and interviewers. If approved, the fee would take effect on July 1st, 2013. The Fee Advisory Subcommittee plans to vote on the fee at its next meeting this Friday.
December graduates are looking toward a bright future, and they can rest assured their commencement speaker will be just as optimistic. Dr. Barbara Fredrickson is the director of the Positive Emotions and Psychophysiology Lab at UNC. She'll speak to graduates in the Dean Dome on December 18th. Fredrickson has studied the effects of positivity on people's lives for the past 20 years. She explains her findings in her book, Positivity. You may as well get used to dialing the 919 area code when making a phone call, because soon you'll have to. The 919 numbers are close to being used up, so starting in March, new phone users in the Triangle and surrounding areas will be assigned 984 area codes. That means you'll have to dial all 10 digits before making a call if you want it to go through. Phone companies will be notifying customers about the change starting this month. Students are doing more than just biking to class, they're biking to Uganda. Students pedaled in the pit today starting at 9 a.m. and will continue until 7 tonight. This event, sponsored by Building Tomorrow, will attempt to raise $45,000 to build a school in Africa. They've already raised $41,000, and you can still sign up to bike through Friday.
And I was out there, the weather seemed great, so
Sure did.
Coming up after the break, we'll have our forecaster to give this a full 7-day forecast.
Looking forward to it.
Signal, you two cut left to the flag. I'm gonna cover you from that tree over there. Remember, don't go for the flag unless you know the coast is clear, okay?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent, because kids in foster care don't need perfection. They need you.
Hi, welcome back to Carolina Week. I'm meteorologist Katie McGee. Taking a look at your headlines for today, we can see that the dry, cool weather has finally arrived, so we are in autumn. And we'll also be looking at whether we can say goodbye to summer for good or whether we might have a few days left of that warm weather. And then we'll also take a look at Tropical Storm Philip. Looking at the satellite, you can see this cloud front, which brought our cool front and gave us all of our precipitation last week, has finally moved off, and we can see a little bit of cloud cover as there's a low pressure system circulating in the northeast, leaving us here in North Carolina and in a majority of the southeast with sunny skies. Looking at the surface map, again, you can see this low pressure system circulating counterclockwise. And as it circulates, it brings down the cool Canadian air, which is why we're having such cold temperatures lately. And as that circulates and moves further east, we have a high pressure system moving in, bringing us all of the dry weather, so skies will stay sunny for the next few days. Looking tomorrow again, you can see the low pressure moving out and the high pressure moving in, so skies will stay sunny. Looking in the tropics, you can see this Tropical Storm Philip with only winds of 65 miles per hour. And you can see a majority of the cloud mass is to the left of the storm, which means that there is a lot of wind shear. So the hurricane is not expected to gain any more strength to a hurricane from a tropical storm and will diverge into what is known as the hurricane graveyard in the Atlantic. Looking ahead at tonight, we can see we will have those clear skies and the light breeze from the north, keeping temperatures in the 50s. And tomorrow, again, it will be cooler than today in 73 with sunny skies, and that light breeze will still persist, keeping temperatures down. Looking tomorrow to the west of us, we can see in Kingsport we have warmer temperatures as that high pressure system moves in with temperatures around 81, 79 down in Clemson, and overall just in the mid 70s to the west. And then to the east, we can see it a little bit cooler in the mid 70s, a little low 70s to the northeast as we wait for that warm front to move in. Looking ahead at football, we have the noon game against the Kentucky Louisville Cardinals, and tailgating early will be a little chilly, so it'll be around 63 with temperatures around 68 at the kickoff, and then for the post-game activities we will see that high of 74 degrees. Looking ahead at our 5-day forecast, we can see temperatures in the low 70s, yet heating up towards the end of the week around 78 with low chances of rain. So as we say goodbye to October, we can definitely say bye to that 80-degree heat.
You know what, Katie? I think you have just inspired my new goal for the week, and that is to spend as little time indoors as possible. That looks like some beautiful, beautiful weather. All right, thanks so much for sharing. We appreciate having you, Katie.
Well, coming up in sports, we'll show you a field hockey dad that goes to uncommon lengths to see his daughter play.
Did you know there's a right way to sneeze? Let's show them, Elmo! Yeah, got it! When you feel like your nose needs to give it at you, this is how you act, this is what you do. Lift your arm up high, bend it toward your face. Sneeze right there in the bendy place. Achoo! Achoo! You can do it with ease. Achoo! Achoo! That's the right way to sneeze. Thank you.
To learn more about preventing flu, visit flu.gov.
Welcome back to Carolina Week. I'm Andy Reeves. The UNC football team is back in Chapel Hill this weekend for an out-of-conference showdown with Louisville. The Heels defense did a number on ECU's prolific offense last weekend, forcing 4 turnovers, but Louisville's offense is much less potent. You won't see big plays from them like that touchdown by the Pirates, but the Cardinals' defense keeps them in games. Touchdowns like that one by Jay Boyd won't come as easily against Louisville, which ranks 18th nationally in points allowed. A dad will often try to be there for his daughter, but what if there is over 400 miles away? One dad is willing to make that trip every weekend. Reporter Julian Caldwell has the story.
As a fifth-year senior on UNC field hockey, Taryn Brill has given a lot of time to the team, but she's not the only one in her family who knows about commitment. Taryn's dad, Timothy, has made it to every weekend game from small-town Ole, Pennsylvania since 2005. That's when Taryn's older sister, Melanie, began her field hockey career here.
I don't think we ever missed a weekend game in the 6th year of coming down.
I don't plan to miss any more games this year, but we travel roughly between 800 to 1,000 miles a weekend.
Anything for a #1 fan to stay close to his daughter's field hockey career, especially since he was the one to introduce her to the game.
The first person I run to after every game is my dad, and he always critiques how I play. Like, I guess he's my favorite.
You can look for Taryn Brill's dad in the crowd Saturday as the field hockey team takes on Boston College at 11 a.m. The UNC men's soccer team's patience was put to the test against UNC Asheville. The Heels missed shot after shot, a season-high 35 shots taken in the game. While the Heels were missing the target, Asheville took the 1-0 lead with this blast right here. UNC finally found the back of the net with Billy Schuler's equalizer. Nice goal right there. And then Rob Lovejoy pinged this shot home to win the game in overtime for the Heels. The UNC volleyball team remains undefeated in conference play after winning a nail-biting 5-game match against NC State. Check the right side of your screen here as Chanel Nelson dominates play at the net with the block. Nice play. Outside hitter Emily McGee led the team with 19 kills. There you see McGee placing the ball over NC State's triple block. Great play there. Middle hitter Tia Gaffin comes through for the Heels in the 5th game. She couldn't be stopped as the Heels win a squeaker in 5 games. Well, looking forward to the football game this weekend. Last time Carolina beat Louisville was in 1996. Everett Withers was the defensive coordinator there.
Funny how things change, Andy.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Andy. Well, students are taking to the streets to raise awareness about cancer.
I can't wait to see this. Coming up, we'll show you how Chapel Hill is painting the town pink.
If you have a story idea, call Carolina Week at 919-843-8292 or email us at carolinaweek@unc.edu. If you have questions about this program, write Carolina Week at Campus Box 3365, UNC-CH, Chapel Hill, North Carolina 27599. Be sure to check out Carolina Week and Carolina Connection online at carolinaweek.org.
Well, you might have noticed that pink has been competing with Carolina blue all around Chapel Hill. That's because the UNC Lineberger Cancer Center is working with the community to turn the town pink this October. Turn the Town Pink events benefits the UNC Comprehensive Cancer Support Program, which helps support patients through cancer treatment and recovery. The program offers support groups counseling and massage therapy. To support the group and Turn the Town Pink, find the schedule of events and a list of community partners on carolinaweek.org. Well, you know, it always seems like a great month to support cancer, and there's pink stuff everywhere. There's walks going on.
Sure does. I spotted a few pink pumpkins in there, which I'm a little confused about. I'm certain that's not natural. Is it this great weather bringing around those pink pumpkins?
I'm sure.
All right, well, that does it for tonight's edition of Carolina Week. Thanks for watching.